Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is 3 p.m. here in Chicago, Illinois. That means it's time for another live stream. It's also 1 p.m. Pacific time if you are in Eugene, Oregon. Or is he in Eugene? Portland? I know he's in Oregon. He's in Pacific time. It's 1 p.m. over there. That's important because today we have Dr. Josh in the long run joining us for the live stream for a happy hour today, bringing recovery beverages of choice. And we'll talk about that all in a minute. But before I do, I want to welcome everyone listening in on the podcast audio version. Welcome. Hope you guys are having a good run. Hope you guys will enjoy this conversation. And everyone watching this on YouTube after the fact, so glad that you were able to still catch this, even though you weren't able to participate live. But now with that being said, let's say hi to everyone who's here. First, let's bring in the man himself. What up, fam?
What up, fam? Let the confetti fly, if there was real confetti.
Awesome. Very cool. So good to have you here. I've been following your videos for such a long time. It seems like, just as long as I've been on YouTube, but I think the earliest was back when it was like your build up to the 2019 Chicago Marathon. So I guess that wasn't too long ago, but it feels like forever ago.
Yeah, it feels like forever.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. For my recovery beverage today, I'm drinking coffee. I normally have been trying to cut back on the coffee at 3 p.m. my time, but I did coffee today because my recovery beverage today is a local coffee roaster, Dark Matter Coffee, and I thought it'd be appropriate today because coincidentally, the one I had already ordered was one of their roasts called Unicorn Blood. So I felt like with everything going on with BAA, not that I'm saying we got to kill the BAA or kill the unicorn. I'm just saying unicorn is the theme. That's what I thought I'd go with for today. What did you bring today, Josh?
Today, guys, I brought some Hydrate. I don't know if you guys can see it. The pink juice. It's not the blood juice. Strawberry Lemonade Hydrate by Transparent Labs. It's an electrolyte formula. It's got a lot of good stuff in it. I don't know if you guys can see it. I promoted it in one of my last few videos, but it has pretty good electrolyte profile. They're working with me. And it's gluten-free, no artificial flavors, colors, or preservatives. So it's pretty legit.
Very cool. And Josh has promo links, promo codes, and affiliate links down below. And I put them in the description. If you don't see them yet, you might have to refresh because I just put them in like a second ago. But if you are interested in, I haven't tried it yet. I'm going to be ordering some off that promo link today. But I haven't tried that yet, and I'm very curious about it because it looks awesome. So if you guys want to try it, check the links in the description. How's it taste? How's it taste on it, though?
It tastes pretty good. There's no sugar in it. There's stevia. So some people don't like stevia, but what you can do to counter that is throw some lemon in it. But it tastes pretty good. Strawberry lemonade. So
okay. Very cool. Well, cheers to you. And I feel like having the recovery drink today is fitting because you just raced last weekend in Greenville, and I saw the race recap video. Congratulations on the strong race.
Thanks. Yeah, it was solid. It was a lot of fun, and thankful to actually be able to race. So
yeah, and it looks like was it Quattlebaum? Did he come in first on that day?
Yeah, Quattlebaum came in first. He took it off from the gun, so there was no hope for. It was Quattlebaum and then Eduardo Garcia behind him, and then the chase pack, which was like me and 6 other people.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a sense of I watched the race recap, but one of the things I want to ask you about is in a race like that, in a time like now, I know people are trying to find whatever race they can get in, but number 2, you want to get races where there's going to be people to run with. How many other people were there in kind of the pack you were in for this race?
So the pack that I was in, there must have been, like I said, 6 to 8 people. And because of COVID, they staggered the starts. And they had masks on before, masks on after, and you can pull it off the mask while you're running. But it was, 8 pack of 8 till about mile 5 and kind of just started stringing out, or I started falling off. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right. And tell me about what's the recovery like for you on a race like this? Because you raced fairly recently before as well down in Florida. We took the W there, right?
Yeah, that was at the Mount Dora half on December 20th. Yeah.
Okay, so not that recently. It seems like it was just a minute ago, but okay. Yeah. So what's the recovery like for you? What's this week look like? What's the next couple of weeks look like?
In terms of recovery, get some notes. In terms of recovery, a 10 mile or a half marathon is typically threshold type effort. And I'm sure you can find stuff online, like maybe from Runner's World and stuff, that it takes about 5 days before you should start to stress another tempo type workout and whatnot. And it takes about 8 to 10 days to adapt from the workout. So what I do within the following days of after a half marathon, it's all about, recovery, stress management, sleep, eating enough. And you're still going to run. The day after, I had the option of taking it off, but I almost take no days off unless I really need it. My recovery days, like for example, I got some notes here. On Sunday, I did 52 minutes because it was 30 minutes to an hour, but I went by heart rate and I averaged 9:30 a mile for my recovery run.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Monday was my midweek long run. I did 75 minutes, but I averaged 8:10 a mile by heart rate. So I just go by feel and use the heart rate monitor as a gauge. And then Tuesday was supposed to be 60, 65 minutes, easy. 8:11 place again with strides and some lifting, but I ended up doing 75 because I overshot. And then Wednesday, I felt good enough to do another workout. But when it comes to doing a workout, especially if it's within that 8 to 10, at least a week out from you finishing the race, I like to focus on quantity, not necessarily quality. So I would do something like, 3 by 5 minute or with 2 minute jog rest, or 4 by 3 minute with some jogging, light, lower threshold in terms of effort. So you're basically trying to gap the time it takes in between the fake workout and to the real-ish workout later in the week.
Right. All right. Because that's interesting. And Martha has got a question, which I think kind of leads into that real well. She says, okay, question. Well, what race or races this fall is Dr. Josh hoping to do? And I'll kind of tweak that question a little bit too, is like, it seems like you're coming back. I mean, it's a half marathon effort. It's not a marathon effort. So it's a little bit different, but like, it seems like it's quick to even have like kind of like the throwaway workout or your in between workout.
Yeah.
Is this because you've got another race coming, or like what's coming down the pike for you?
So I'm a big advocate of trying to keep some speed of all different systems like all year round. I do have a 5K time trial coming up 10 days out from yesterday. Okay. And the only thing I have on the schedule right now is the Chicago Marathon in October. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Very cool. So, cause like I was trying to think of like, as I was looking at kind of your taper and the way that you were building up for this half marathon was like, is he basically training through? Cause there was a short taper, but I mean, and then it's a half marathon. I don't really know what a half marathon taper should be, cause I've never really trained specifically for a half, So I was like, so thanks for giving us a little bit of that insight there, because that kind of helps me understand like where you're going with some of the workouts and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that something that you would recommend? Because Rick's in here saying, oh, you young folks who recover quickly, enjoy that while you're young, the 15 and 16 about you. Is that something that like, I mean, is that something you would recommend for all people, is to like get in? I mean, it doesn't have to be the speeds you're running. I mean, because I could never run the speeds you're running, but is that something that you think is applicable kind of throughout the age ranges, to have some sort of that, like, kind of that bridge workout, or, what do you think?
I don't know if you saw my Instagram post this morning. I said something about like that the difference between, runners, that the paces on fitness levels is the thing they have in common is perceived exertion, no matter what fitness they're in. So when it comes to recovery, in theory, you shouldn't follow like a structured sense. So like if it takes the 20-year-old 3 days to recover from a half marathon, but it takes the 60-year-old, a week to recover from a half marathon, then that's totally fine, because your body's going to adapt accordingly. And you just go by time. I don't train by mileage. I'm a big advocate of not training by mileage, but just training by, time spent running.
And then to follow up on that, like, do you shoot for any kind of breakdown in terms of like how much of that is easy, how much is that is that something that kind of happens because you're getting the workout in, or is that something that you're specifically like tuning for? Does that make sense? Yeah.
So you're saying like, if how do I tell like which run of what day is supposed to be easy, which run of what day is supposed to be like recovery and stuff like that?
Yeah. So like you're saying you're trying to train by time, is that time like by week or time by day, or
time by day?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very cool. Yeah. Peter Shaw has a quick question for you. Did Josh run in college? If so, where?
So that will be coming out my next my life in college video. It's a long story. I did run in college, but not on a college team. I was running for a club at the college. But I was, running up with some D1 runners while in college. So, yeah.
And then another question from Martha. Luis just told her Josh's half marathon time. That translates into close to the Olympic qualifying time, either half marathon or marathon, doesn't it? Where are you on that? Because I know that's a goal of yours.
They haven't announced yet if they're going to lower the standards yet to get to the Olympic trials, U.S. Olympic trials, and it is a goal of mine. I still got, I don't know, runners peak probably in their mid 30s. But the standard for men's right now is sub 104, and the standard for the full marathon is sub 219. Sub 219 is equivalent to 106-ish, 106.20. So I'm not quite there yet. If I would have kept the pace that I kept when I was running on last Saturday, then I would somewhat be there. But I know people that haven't run 106 or 108 that have run 108, but that have hit the trial standard. So that is a goal of mine, to qualify for the Olympic marathon trials, U.S. trials.
Very cool. Very cool. And is that something that you're thinking of that you'll be going for in Chicago this fall?
Yeah.
Or how is that going to work if the Olympics aren't until like in August? Like, is there a time where like there are races that potentially might not count?
I think the window is done for the Olympics, or the trials already happened, obviously, but even
yeah. But I mean, like, is there like it won't reopen again? Like, when does it reopen? Because it's been closed, but when does it reopen?
They haven't announced that yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Another question I wanted to ask you about was just to switch gears just a little bit. Is one of the things that I find particularly enjoyable about your videos, in addition to the mustache and the hair, is the special effects. So can we get into that? Where did that come from? Is that something like you knew how to do already, or you were like making these videos and you're like, I need to spice this up. Let me figure out and like YouTube search how to like green screen myself into like a car explosion. Like how did that come about?
So when I first started YouTube, I'm actually like 95% mobile, like all mobile when I create my videos. It's an iPhone 11 Pro. But when I started off with shoe videos. Alpha Fly. I'm known as the Alpha Fly guy, kind of. So I was like, if you watch some of my older videos, it may be a little cringe, because I'll just have put random things just to keep people entertained, because it's all about watch time now. But yeah. So the green screen stuff you can do, and I use iMovie, and basically you can find green screens online and you get them, and then basically you import it as green screen, and just puts it overlays it onto the screen. But I also got an app that's called Superhero Effects. Not sponsored. I've done like 2 videos where they're very cringy superpowers. Randomness is like my motto.
Randomness is funny. I enjoy randomness.
I'll get real confetti soon, though. I'll just have
yeah. And then
Yeah.
like underneath your chair where you shoot all your videos, it'll just be like a mountain of like confetti from various days of videos.
That'll be post-roll clip too.
Very cool. Cool. So it wasn't something that like you have experience making videos or anything like that. It was just something like you wanted to spice it up.
Yeah. So like my Christmas special wasn't originally supposed to be a Christmas special. It was supposed to be just a normal workout video, but I was like, well, it's December, so I'll just green screen this video with Christmas stuff or holiday stuff, and add some Christmas music or holiday music to make it a special. So
nice. Very nice. Very cool. Someone, and you mentioned Alpha Fly, but someone had asked earlier, do you prefer the Alpha Fly or the Vapor Fly?
Right now,
I'm assuming he means next percent. So let's that way.
The Vaporfly next percent right now, for everything half marathon and under. And you tend to see it that way too. Occasionally you'll see some people wearing the Alpha Fly. I did a couple of videos on that too. It's a good shoe. It's just, I feel like it's heavier. Even when it gets wet, it's still heavier, even with the Atom knit. That was a stupid video that I made it, but
yeah. All right. Interesting. Because that's kind of how I see it break down too. But I'm like, that's how I see it break down. But like, what do real fast people do? Like, do they even notice a difference? Because then I see some people that are still rocking the Alpha Fly for half marathon type efforts, and I'm like, I don't know. I think maybe if you're fast, you can run in anything. But on the other hand, I'm like, no, the Alpha Flight doesn't feel like the half marathon racer to me.
Yeah.
What else are you training in these days? Can you run us through your rotation real quick?
Let's see.
I mean, it doesn't have to be quick, but
no, they're all Nikes. The Nike React Infinity Run ones primarily, because I like the 1 and 2s. I have the 2s, so I rotate the 2s in sometimes. I had the Nike React Miler. I retired my Peg 37s after like 500 miles. And then for workouts, because I'm training for the marathon, it's all about being specific on what you're going to race in. So I've been training in more so in the Alpha Fly. I used to train in the Tempo Next Percent, but I don't like for fast workouts, but I don't really do that anymore. And then Vaporfly 4% and Old Pair, Vaporfly Next Percent and Old Pair, depending on the day what I'm doing. And I've worn Dragonflies a couple times if it's supposed to be like a really fast track workout. And especially if they're going to make the ruling. I saw at the Sound Running event in Texas, or Texas qualifier this past week, and there were people wearing the Vaporfly in the 10K. So I guess they haven't really enforced the spike rule yet, and they're slowly transitioning. But because of that, I got a pair of the Dragonflies if I ever race a 5 or 10K on the track in the future. That's pretty much a gist of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was listening to Kira D'Amato talk about it. About that Texas race, and she was like, yeah, there were some people that still had like their carbon plated shoes, like their marathon shoes, and she was like, her understanding was that for US, like to make it to Eugene for the track trials, it'd be okay to whatever you ran in, but if you wanted to qualify for like the Olympic standard, like the world standard, that wouldn't be okay, and so that was like the decision some people were making.
Yeah.
So I guess I feel like you're thinking all I want to do is be able to make the track trials, and like, I'm, making like the actual Olympic team isn't a big, a realistic consideration for a person. Then, I guess you're like, I'm going to run in the shoe that I want to for this 10K.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. But did you watch a lot of that Trials of Miles track meet?
Yeah, it was the night before my race last weekend, so I watched it from my phone. Yeah, and I commented.
I saw you in there for a little bit, but I didn't know how much.
Yeah, I saw you too. The stuff that some of the people were saying was. I think I thought one of them posted on my Instagram story, but one of them was like, in the long run's here, the uncle you wish you had, or something like that. My 3 daddies are here, Coop, West Fly, in the long run. Yeah.
It was an interesting group. It's definitely a demographic that doesn't come to this chat, I think.
Yeah.
But it was pretty like I would say cringe. I don't like to use the word cringy a ton, but that was kind of like, I can't not look, but like I'm definitely watching to see what these guys are talking about.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. We got another question here from Rick coming in saying, Dr. Josh, thoughts on the 4% and next percent study that suggests that the improvements for non-elites is primarily due to reduced fatigue because of the ZoomX?
I have not seen that study, so I'll just let you know. But just thinking about it, ZoomX is P-backs, right? P-backs is used by other companies, like in the Reebok Float Ride. The Saucony shoe, Endorphin Pro, also uses P-backs. So the composition of the foam, especially in the longer shoes, would make sense that it reduces load, like especially in the later miles of a marathon, right? If you ever run a marathon, your quads are trashed by like 18 to 20. But I know there's a study on the 4 and X percent that it's just as economical on the track, better from 3K and up. So you're better off if you can wear the 4% or next percent when you're racing a 3K and up, and a spike from 3K under. But I mean, you'll see improvement. I mean, in the lab, I don't know how big the study was. What, 4 to 5% improvement? And keep in mind their streak was their number 1 marathon shoe back in the day, right? And that was still like a 3%, 2.8 or 3%. I'm making these numbers up, but it's under 4%. It's about 2 to 3%. So, yeah.
Did you ever run a marathon in the Zoom streak?
I have not. I've only run 2 marathons in my life.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember, like, I did not pick up marathoning when the Zoom streak. I must have when the Zoom streak was still, because I think maybe like, my first marathon was in 2010, and then I took a very long break from distance running. But then I kind of came back to it like 2016, 2017. I think that's a little bit before the 4% coming out, but I don't remember a time where I noticed what people were wearing at marathons until the 4% but I'm like, I know from other people, they're like, yeah, I ran like several marathons in the Zoom streak. And I'm like, you mean that 5K shoe? Like you ran a marathon in a 5K shoe? Cause that's how I see the Zoom streak now. It's crazy how things have changed.
Yeah. And it's like nowadays, I mean, there's new shoes coming out, but like the sea of Vaporflies, there'll be an event and there'll be people running. And it's just everyone wearing the pink and green.
Yeah. So. It's an interesting thing. What's your take on like all the world records that are, or the records or the fast times that are coming out of like indoor season and hitting earlier in the year? It's reignited the debate between, is it the shoes or is it the athletes? Kind of where do you fall in that conversation?
So with any sport, there's going to be an advancement in technology. Tennis rackets, baseball bats, swimsuits. But when it came to swimming, there was a definite, like the swimsuits the Olympics banned because it makes you so efficient in the water. So it's not like it's inevitable, the changes that are going to happen when it comes to the sport. And what it comes down to it is ultimately the athlete in and of themselves. People are getting faster naturally. There are different, training parameters and different things that people are doing. Genetics, I'm sure we'll probably see sub 2 hour marathons on the regular in like 150 years from now. So no, I'm serious.
I mean, I don't think I'll see them. I won't be here in 150 years, but maybe you will be.
In the jar. Just kidding. But yeah, so I mean, I think I commented on one of Total Running Productions videos. As long as there's money flow and marketing, and there's a governing body that's going to like keep it at a status quo to a certain extent, there will always be advancement. But ultimately, it will come down to just, I believe, the athlete. Unless it's like you're wearing a pair of Spiro shoes. You ever heard of the Spiro shoes back in the day? Where they had like an actual metal thing in the shoe that was banned outright when they were made. It was probably like 2000. It was when I was in high school, 2006 to 2008. They were called Spiros. They were a weird looking shoe.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a shoe that actually has a spring on it. It's a really weird. It looks like a trail shoe because there's just so much stuff to it.
Yeah,
and I'm like, then everyone's like, yeah, clearly this is not like a racing shoe. You can't race in this shoe, but it's an interesting, weird shoe. So I've seen things like that before, but that's interesting. Speaking of while we're on like controversial topics, and I'm drinking the unicorn blood today, or unicorn blood coffee today. What's your take on the BAA situation with like not having a qualifying time to participate virtually? Any thoughts, if you have any?
Well, when it comes to that, I've been paying too much attention. I know you said the other day they're capping the limit, right, and they're allowing people to qualify with a time to run virtually. But are they still getting their swag if they're running virtually?
I'm not sure. That's, but like I'm upset because of like, not because that person gets a medal, necessarily. Cause like, I don't care about medals personally, but like the thing that I see, around, like running around is like the jacket, the swag, Yeah. And so that's why I'm like, well, I mean, I guess if you ran it virtually, but you didn't have a qualifying time, do you get the jacket? Do you buy the jackets? So I don't know. So I'm not sure how all that works, but there's something about it that seems kind of weird to me. But on the other hand, it's like, if this is like the one time they do a virtual, I'm not sure. I'm like, whatever. Just let everybody have that chance to participate, I guess. But yeah, I don't know.
And I'm sure they have to pay off for the actual event, right? The police, whoever controls the roads and stuff like that. So maybe that's why they're doing it that way, in order to have an in-person event. So
yeah. Leona Wong is saying, I think it's just a medal. Steve 76 is saying Kufuzi's upset. I'm kind of not, but I can very much relate to it. But there is something that bothers me about it. But like, I also just kind of don't care.
I got
and 76 says, you know what, you could just get your medal and jacket on eBay. Oh, that's so funny. That's funny. Awesome. Yeah. So I think a lot of people are getting riled up, and then people are getting riled up about the people that have gotten riled up.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I just think that they're trying to figure out a way to survive and pay for everything that they need to pay for.
The cool thing, though, is that hopefully Chicago will probably maybe not outright cancel Chicago, but maybe follow a similar path. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. Remy says, around here, you can get one of those jackets at Marshall's for $20. It's not a big deal.
Hey, You can find pro kits sometimes in Burlington Coat Factory if you
Really?
actually look. Yeah.
That's funny. That's really funny. Cause like, I see like the Instagram accounts that are like, hey, do you want to have like the Nike team kit for Morocco? And I'm like, no, I don't want that. Why would I want that? I mean, Morocco, I've never been there. I want to visit at some point, but it's like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's it. That's really interesting that you can find that. All right. Here's a serious running question. I think it's a serious running question. Sarius7 says, between VO2 max and anaerobic threshold, which is more likely to improve running performance and which is easier to train? Any thoughts
VO2
on that
max.
one?
VO2 max is going to improve performance quicker. As a matter of fact, if you're a high schooler and you say you didn't run at all in the summer, within 2 to 3 workouts of true VO2 max work, you'll be back in shape to where you were. No, I'm serious. It's like the biggest gain you'll get in the shortest amount of time. But it's also the most taxing on the body. Now, anaerobic threshold, I'm assuming you mean like above your threshold zone. It depends what you're training for. If you're training for the 800 meter and under, then anaerobic is probably fine. But even then, it's still like a 60-40 split from like aerobic to anaerobic. So to answer your question, I would do VO2 max work. And it has to be a minimum of 3 minutes, according to Jack Daniels. Doesn't matter how much ground you cover, as long as it's 3 minutes.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. For your marathon training, though, do you switch up that? Do you get to more? Do you ever switch and go to more of a threshold emphasis, or are you still focusing on a lot of VO2 max work when you are training for a marathon?
So when I'm training for a marathon, I'm actually coached by Boulder Underground. Check him out on Instagram. My coach Matt Hensley has a lot of philosophies that are taken from other coaches like Canova and Coach Schwartz of Tin Men. And since I'm training for the marathon and most of his athletes are training for the marathon, it's a lot of aerobic specific type work than it is VO2 max work. Now, there's a time and place for VO2 max work. Probably if you're racing, maybe a 10K and under, 8K and under, 5K for sure, 3K for sure. But like you hardly touch VO2 max as you get more specific. Like as the season goes on, you're getting towards your goal race, your training becomes more specific. But like because I'm so far away from VO2 max work, which is technically your 3K pace, it's not really merited to train it unless you want a spike in performance. If you look at Jack Daniels' last plan that he has in his 3rd edition, I think it's the 4th edition coming out, he throws in 3 VO2 max works within the last 6 weeks of the marathon, like spread 2 weeks out apart. That 8 to 10 days that we talked about earlier. So you adapt to it.
You've been mentioning like the 8 to 10 days for adaptation. I've always thought it was 14 days. And I don't know if I'm always just like, I'm like the weird like donkey and I'm just like really reluctant to adapt to anything. I feel like it takes me longer than 14 days to really like feel the benefits of workouts. Like, how much variability do you think that there is in something like that?
Probably dependent on like their age and stuff like that. But I feel like the range of 8 to 10 days. I mean, I've learned that in high school. If you look at a bunch of other plans, like if you're gonna have a peak workout for a peak race, the best time to do it is like 8 to 10 days out. And so like if you see like a lot of the pro runners Instagrams and stuff like that, it's like, okay, this is the last workout. Then 10 days out from now, we got championship race. That doesn't mean you're not gonna do any workouts in between now and then. It's just gonna mean you're gonna focus more on quality instead of quantity leading up to that point. So,
all right. All right. And Oren says, if you can pick up all your fitness gains in those couple weeks of VO2 max workouts, what's the point of running in the summer then?
Well, you got to build stamina and stuff, right? You can't just go out and run, I don't know, 5 or 6 1200s with 50% jog recovery. You still need. It's like the same. Okay, it's like look at high schoolers. You notice that I think I did a video on this. Do you notice how like the high schoolers, not saying everyone, that are really good at the 800 and the mile, it's more so the 2 mile, but the further you go up in distance, right, the less equivalent their times are to their shorter times. If you go like on Jack Daniels' VDOT chart. So the purpose of the long run is, you're submaximally strengthening your muscles, tendons, ligaments, increasing mitochondria and all that stuff that may hit that system more than the other stuff, right? Rather than doing all out sprints and stuff like that. So you need to hit other systems of the body more than just like, let's see how much my body can consume oxygen, how efficient can I make it, versus let's see how long my muscles can withstand fatigue and stuff. Because if you can withstand fatigue and do all the things you need to do, it's going to translate to performance in the shorter races. So like another big thing too, if like when I went into college and my time started dropping, literally when I started incorporating like 90-minute long runs and up, massive drop. So in terms of overall fitness, right?
Right. Very cool. Very good. It's going to take me like another 30 seconds to come up with the next question because I'm still digesting everything that you just said. It comes at me fast, and I'm not picking it up so quick.
It's the mustache. I let the mustache do the work.
Martha's got a question here. It says, Dr. J, I live at high elevation. She's up in the mountains in Colorado. It says, try to max that advantage by arriving at destination races within 2 days. Any thoughts on how long it takes to lose the adaptation to altitude?
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of altitude training, Josh?
The last 2 years I did because I work at running camp in the summer. That was this hat, the Team Prep USA hat, and gunny. So I'm there for like 3 weeks. Then I'll head to Boulder, hang out with friends for a couple of days. So then like my 10K PR I did after altitude. That 15:03 I ran on that time trial video was back from altitude. So to answer, Martha, your question, when you go back to sea level, when to race, it's best to race right when you land or 10 days or a couple days out versus in between, because there's like this fatigue setting that happens. And for adaptation loss, a red blood cell lasts for about 120 days. So there's that aspect. There's all kinds of aspects that happen when you go up to altitude, like how you breathe, how to utilize oxygen, words like ventilatory threshold. So you will probably start to see decrease in benefits of altitude probably around 2 weeks. But you won't lose what you've gained from going up to altitude.
All right. So you're saying like you should try to like do what Martha's saying and like try to get to not like spend like 3 or 4 days getting acclimated to it, but you just want to get there relatively close to the race time then. Yeah.
So if you're going up, you have two choices. If you're coming from the mountains and you're going to sea level to race, either right when you land or a couple days after kind of thing. There's like a fatigue setting.
Very cool. All right. Scotty B says, what did you eat before your half marathon? And what is your favorite post-race food and beverage?
What did I eat before my half marathon? Well, I ate like a horse the day before. So when I woke up, I wasn't really that hungry, but, I did eat a Martin gel before I started. And that's pretty much the cost of a breakfast too. Anyway, right? Martin gel, an arm and a leg, or just a leg or an arm. And then favorite post-race food and beverage. Well, usually like right when I finish, I'm like not hungry, because you're kind of like in flight or flight. But I can't think off the top of my head. I eat a lot of the same thing. The important thing is just to get some carbohydrates in you and some protein. So if I'm at an event and they have bananas and stuff, I'll grab a banana or have a protein bar in my bag, like a Cliff Builder or whatever. So.
And for your diet, you are plant-based, is that right?
Yeah.
How long have you been that way, or can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I've been vegan since the summer of 2017. It all started with watching every single documentary on Netflix.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. Every single.
So you watch the documentaries and like it's time for a life change?
Yeah, I quit cold turkey. Pun intended.
Wow.
Yeah. So, so I did veganism for about a year and a half, and then I was like, okay, I got to cut out gluten. Because I thought I had issues. No, I never had blood work done. Thought I had issues absorbing like iron and stuff. And all honesty, I thought I was anemic for the last 5 years of my life. Just like looking at the pictures and how like much my performance has dropped. And like I look tan right now, living in the Pacific Northwest versus like 2017. I look pale as a ghost. But I cut out gluten about in the middle of 2018, like after my first marathon. And I started seeing other performance boosts. Could it be my training? Could it be how my diet changed? Could be either or. And then, dairy was cut out too. Meat and dairy were cut out like immediately last summer of 2017. So, yeah.
And you haven't looked back, huh?
Nope, I haven't looked back.
Very cool. Very cool. I mean, I feel like a lot of times when people make changes, like a couple of things change, or like there's always a couple of things. And it's like, sometimes people want to know like, well, was it that or not? I'm like, I'm sure I can figure out a way of testing whether or not, but like everything seems to be working well. So I'm not going to mess with like the combination of things that it could be. just going to keep going with it. Yeah. All right. So we got another question here. Ted and Ruth wants to know, basic question here. What weight are you guys? Cohen Doc specifically, although anyone else can join in. I'm 5'10", and I think right now I'm about 145. How tall are you, Josh?
Hold on. Jody, are you in the chat? I'm 5'4", which is basically 5'7", which is practically 6'5". And I weigh I weigh I weigh like 120-ish pounds. My sweet spot, like when I peak, is around 118 pounds. I weigh probably most time around the year around 123, and my performance drops when I get down under 118. So, yeah.
All right. Is that something that you keep very close tabs on, or tell me about like how, like you seem to know those numbers real well. Like, how does that factor into your nutrition, your training, your recovery? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think I mentioned a ways back, maybe on another stream in the chat, that there's an ideal body weight, and everyone's a little bit different, plus or minus 10%. Men is 106 pounds for the first 5 feet, 6 pounds for each inch after that. Women is 100 pounds for the first 5 feet and 5 pounds for each inch after that, plus or minus 10%. And there's stuff on there in the literature on like different percentages of how much less than an ideal body weight individual that different events have. Now, I'm not crazy about it. I don't like make sure, like, I'm not saying I can eat whatever I want. I just eat really clean, right? To the point where it's like I eat a lot, but I eat clean. So it's not like, you got to look at other things too, like preservatives and things that would naturally affect hormones and how you would store fat and stuff like that. Simple sugars, insulin, spikes and stuff like that. So I don't really go crazy with that. But I'm not, I don't weigh myself. I don't remember the last time I weighed myself. I just go out and run and just do it kind of thing.
Yeah. I've only been weighing myself regularly because I'm still wearing this Amazon band thing. This is really like this thing that listens to all my conversations, and it tells me to keep weighing myself periodically. So I'm like, okay, I just do what the like digital overlord tells me to do. So yeah. So that's the only reason I've been weighing myself lately, because otherwise I don't. I take a look at it like while I'm like kind of like nearing peak week of a big marathon training block, just to see like, okay, from like looking back at it, I'm like, okay, I was training hard. I feel like I'm doing well. Where am I at? Like, what does that kind of feel like? But I don't ever try to like aim for a number. And it sounds like you're kind of in the same spot.
Yeah.
Frank has a question, says, if you live at 4,000 feet, does it make sense to drive up to 9,000 as often as possible for altitude benefits? What do you think about that?
The kidneys will start responding after 3 hours.
Really?
Yeah. But the problem is, so for those in the chat that go up to altitude, the best, you have to be there at least 5 days to get a benefit. And you have to get a decent benefit, 10 days, to get maximum benefit in the shortest amount of time, 3 to 4 weeks. So if you go from 4,000 to 9,000, 4,000 considered moderate altitude, 9,000 is considered high altitude. Does it make sense to drive to night as often as possible for altitude benefits? If you're there for like 3 hours at a time, it's kind of like the idea of like the altitude tents, although that's hypoxia. There you have to spend a crazy amount of time in the tent, which is probably not practical for the average individual, that works. So unless your office is in the tent kind of thing. So, but I would say 3 hours minimum, and constant stimuli is the goal. I mean, if you're already at 4,000, you're getting some elevation benefit, but if you want to drive up to like 9,000 feet, like if you're going to Magnolia Road and you live in Boulder, that's at 5, then it's probably fine. Or like Seth goes up to Leadville, which is at 10 for a couple days at a time, right? So a couple vlogs on that. So
yeah, see, I always thought that like for altitude, like the whole thing wasn't so much the training at altitude, it was like the living at altitude, the recovering at altitude, that's really what drove it. And so like, the altitude tents are were interesting, but like, you really have to be spending like the majority of your time in order to be able to get those kinds of benefits. That was my understanding of it. Yeah. So that's interesting to know.
Like 12 to 16 hours a day or something like that.
Yeah, it's a lot. Ben Y wants to know, what vegan protein sources do you like?
Quinoa, chickpeas, beans, legumes. You can buy the meat substitutes like Beyond Raw and the Impossible Burger. That's pretty much it. I mean, I eat mainly rice, beans. I do tofu as well. That's pretty much it. Yeah, those are my protein sources. You gotta make sure you do it right too. Like you gotta make sure you're having complementary proteins, right? Rice and beans are complementary
Right.
to a complete protein. Peanut butter and bread, if you do that, is a complete protein. So yeah.
And Will Willing wants to know, are you truly vegan? I'm not sure. I think I know what that means. I'm not sure what that means. Or do you just eat vegan?
Eat vegan. Truly vegan is probably like no animal products, nothing. I'm sure my shoes are made from like alligator skin or something. I don't know.
Do you think that like running shoes today in 2021 have animal products in them still? Because I've not looked into that before, and people have asked me before, but like it's not like there's like leather in them anymore. There's not suede in the shoes anymore, or if it's not real suede, I don't think. So it's like, I don't know. Do you know?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm sure maybe they tested on animals. I don't
know. Oren wants to know, why do you only run in Nike shoes?
Because the club that I compete with /for is a Nike club. So
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
All right. Jody has a question for Josh. Why do you need protein before a race for fuel?
Why do you need protein? You don't. Wait. You made me rephrase that question. So why do you need protein before a race for fuel? So I'm thinking, you know how like some gels have amino acids in it, right? Like the goo has like a couple milligrams. I mean, they're very small amounts. I guess for a long distance, just thinking about it is that for the really long events, you'll start using protein as a fuel source, right? You start breaking down skeletal muscle to convert to glucose when you're running low on carbohydrate, or if you're not eating enough. So that would make sense that it would slow down the breakdown. Or even I don't care so much for racing. Obviously you want to race in prime, but it's like do or die. Right? At least do or die, baby. And so but during training, you got to make sure you get your ample, diet going in. But when it comes to the race, it's like finish the race and then worry about surviving after.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense to me. CK Stoner says, "Hey Doc, where does the spicy come from?"
Well, I don't know. It just came. It just came to me. I do put cayenne pepper on like everything. Yeah. So time to get spicy. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think that that's a very popular word. I've heard it around a lot too. So I think it's just in the zeitgeist maybe a little bit. Yeah. And Christian wants to know, is that an ASICS logo styled into the side of your hair?
No. Okay. Where is it? Oh, so I wanted to get. I can't. Can you see it? It's like
I can see it.
These breed stripes I talked about.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I want this. I gave it to the barber. He's like, I'm like, can you do that? He's like, yeah, I can do that. I was like, okay. So yeah, it's not ASICS. It's supposed to be speed stripes. Yeah.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. Robert Hodge coming in with a question says, what would be the best speed shoe for a newer runner? I'm doing my first organized 5K in April.
Well, I can speak from a Nike standpoint, I guess. Newer first 5K. If you can get a hold of the Streak 7s, although I think they can discontinue them because I can't find them anywhere, because I like them because the toe box is wider and it has a little more cushion than the Streak LT4, which is, the spike flat model, but without spikes. So, Robert, for the 5K, and obviously make sure you get used to them, because obviously it's a scale down shoe. If you're not used to them, you could go with the whatever I just said, the LT Streak 4, or you can get a pair of Vaporflies, because Vaporflies rule the world now. Unless you know of any other shoes you would recommend for.
I mean, I think, it depends on, if you're a newer runner, you might not have like 5 or 6 shoes already in the rotation. So I would probably look at something that is a speed shoe that you can use for faster workouts, like down the line as well. And so, I mean, I think that I love the Zoom Streak for 5K. I think it's very well suited for that distance, like a road 5K. But I would also look at shoes like the Hyperion Tempo, or just to give some not Nike examples as well to round out the discussion. Like the Boston 9 or even the Adios 5. Those are some from Adidas that I think that could be really interesting, but also you could get a lot of use out of afterwards as well.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Tipa wants to know. Got a lot of questions for you today, Josh. How to incorporate more speed work and strides into the training.
So strides, let's talk strides first. Strides you can do 3 to 4 days a week. I usually do strides the day before a main workout. because it raises muscle tension. It tells your fast nerves to start firing, help recruit. So you feel more peppy. Believe it or not, you will feel more peppy the day after you do strides. So I do strides. Let's see, my workout days are Monday, Thursday. So I do strides on Sunday, Wednesday, and then I may do some strides at the end of a long run, which helps because when you're fatigued and you train your body to, recruit muscle, more fibers when you're fatigued. And then I also do strides right before the workout, or like you see runners doing right before a race to get the heart rate up, right? Stuff like that. So that's how I do strides. So technically strides, I do 8 to 10 strides twice a week. And then like before workouts, I'll do 45-second jog recovery. And like before workouts, I would do maybe 4 strides before I start the workout. To incorporate more speed in general, speed is a very broad term because when it comes to speed, it's more than just like running fast. It's like, right, a lactate threshold, depending on what you're training for, marathon pace, interval pace, VO2 max type pace. So, but I assume majority of people probably on here may be training for 5K and up. So the basic like breakdown is like Monday or Tuesday is your faster day, VO2 max, repetition type work. If you're training for like the mile with full recovery, then Wednesday or Friday or Thursday or Friday is like your tempo day where you do 20-minute threshold or 5-minute cruise intervals or timed threshold, comfortably hard pace. You could talk a pace you could think you can hold for an hour. And then Saturday or Sunday will be your long run, and you can alternate. I think the Texas coach, I did a USATF seminar back in the day. I don't know if he coaches at Texas, Coach Aldine. I don't know if I'm getting the name wrong, but he says that his athletes do what I just said prior, but like they alternate weeks where they'll go like the VO2 max work they do on one week is 5K pace, and the following week it's 3K pace, and the week after that it's 5K pace. And then the threshold is like 20-minute tempo, cruise intervals that are slightly faster with a minute jog recovery. And then the long run is long with strides at the end or long with marathon pace in the middle for a certain amount of time kind of thing. So, yeah.
So is that something that you maintain outside of like a race specific training block, like kind of like 2 workouts a week and a long run? Or is that tell me about what you're like if you zoom out to like an overall week, like what are the work or like the quality sessions look like when you're like kind of like in between the main training blocks?
So like not in season. So say your season's over, we take some time off, up to 2 weeks max, right? Then you're going to start at 50% mileage, 75% mileage. This is all taken from Jack Daniel's book. And then you can go back up to 100% mileage of what you were doing before you stopped on the 3rd week. The 3rd week, you can start incorporating the long run. And then at that point, I will start doing also, you don't want to neglect speed. It's like strides all year round. Always do strides all year round to maintain speed. Okay. When I did that Instagram post this morning, I was looking up stuff on Canova, and he does say that like American distance runners treat base as base, where they do nothing but slow mileage and neglect, other systems that need to be affected to stay fresh. So like if it were the off season, I still do strides, and then I would still incorporate some type of light fartleks or progression runs, very light, like a Mona fartlek, but not like a true Mona fartlek, like submaximal Mona, submaximal, or like 30-second fartlek, stuff like that, minute on, minute off, couple weeks and stuff like that. And as you get closer, you could start doing more repetition, speed, like getting leg turnover, and full recovery type stuff.
All right, tell me more about this Mona fartlek.
So the Mona fartlek, someone in the chat, I know it's an Australian runner, right, that came up with it. Steve Mona. Basically, I think it's, now you're testing me, 2x90, 4x90, 4x60, 4x30, 4x15 seconds each, 1-to-1 jog recovery. And I believe the perceived exertion of each effort gets faster and faster. So a true Mona fartlek should leave you feeling gassed and tired, but not so much that you're like, hurting yourself in the long run kind of thing. But the way that I would do it would be like, maybe start at 8K pace, or maybe start at marathon till you feel like you can get spicy. You always save getting spice for at the end of a race, because you know what happens when you have too much spice? You run to the bathroom. So, spice comes later, not in the beginning. So you can get spicy at the last couple of reps or so. But yeah, that's the Mona fartlek. Hence the moan.
we got some of the Australians in the chat.
Oh, there we go.
Steve Mongetti.
Yeah,
So,
Steve. Good old Steve.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, that is just a lot of knowledge for me. I now have a bunch of stuff that I got to go look up and read up more on. And thanks so much for doing all that. Yeah, so the next time trial, the next race effort for you is gonna be that 5K time trial as we're wrapping up here.
Yep, I'm gonna do it on the track.
Very cool. And what are you gonna be doing that in the Dragonflies?
Well, probably not. I tell you guys, it's like spikes to the carbon shoes is night and day. Like if you slow mo record yourself running in spikes versus slow mo record yourself running in the carbon shoe, it's like you get so much more extension on your hips with the carbon plated shoe than you do spikes, and it just feels like you're wasting way less energy running in the marathon shoe than you are running in the spikes. But you probably could run faster in the spikes. So I don't know. I'll probably do them in Vaporflies.
All right. Very cool. Well, I can't wait to see that. I think that's a good place to leave it today. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. You've already been on here for 15 minutes now. So thank you so much. Thanks for joining in today. So glad to have you here on the chat.
No problem. Oh, let me mention one thing.
Okay.
My announcement.
Oh yeah, you have a big announcement for today.
Yeah. Well, big announcement in the sense of next chapter in my life. I figure you guys can listen, but I am moving. I am moving to Boulder.
Awesome. Very cool. So is that because that's where your coach is? So are you moving to get closer to the coach and that group out there?
My coach and I teamed up with a company that I promoted in my videos before, the Lever Running company. That they make that like Ultra G type, more affordable thing you can put on a treadmill to run less body weight if you're injured and stuff like that. So so I'm gonna do work with them. Start my own chiro gig out there too, and I can pump out more content. I figure while I'm out there and stuff like that. So.
Very cool. And so when is all that going to be happening?
I'll start making the trek. It's like 18-hour drive, maybe at the end of this month, late to end of this month. So
okay, well, exciting. Thank you for giving us the scoop here, the exclusive here. I think that Colorado is going to be very lucky to have you out there to do what you're doing, but out there. Awesome. Well, good luck to you on the move and on the transition to that next kind of chapter.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in today. That's where we're going to leave it for now. And be safe out there, everybody. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Later, fams.